as my like face starts to fucking mold into something new,
On the
something
middle of the
borrowed,
screen.
something blue. Just kidding.
I'm blue, da ba dee da ba.
Full circle, Tara. Full circle.
Uh, Alrighty. Here we are. Episode 4. My girl has gone on a trip and she's got some juicy things to share. I have some insights to share on a different side of that coin. So I'm really excited to get into it today. Let's do hey, we're Frequency Broads. Welcome, episode 4. Tara here with Victoria, the one and only beautiful. Love the green on you, first of
Thank
all.
you. Thank you.
And that looks cozy.
Hmm. And I can't wear a bra with it, so
Oh,
it's even cozier.
FB after hours, am I right? No, I'm kidding. I almost put on a button up to be like leadership. And then I was like, no, we're not
That's
going to do
so funny because I was like, should I put on a blazer right now?
that. It's the new leadership, okay? We don't always have to be in work casual or whatever it's called.
And the new leadership is braless. So,
Let me get this off.
I mean,
Just
unless
kidding.
it's bringing you comfort and support.
It's bringing me comfort and joy. Comfort and joy. Okay.
Yeah. So, as Tara
Freak
mentioned,
check? Oh,
oh,
I mean, how you feeling? Real quick, how you feeling? I didn't mean to cut you off.
hmm. I am feeling empowered and embodied and really freaking good in where I'm
Mm.
at mentally, physically, emotionally. So let's savor this moment while it lasts.
Everybody snaps for Victoria because that's huge. That is huge to be aligned like that.
How are you feeling? Give me a little freak check.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling what's the word I'm looking for? Not release, surrender. I feel like I'm just like in this, like, you know what? Okay, we're on it. We're on the ride. Cartridge is in. We're good to go. I am really excited about this topic, especially because of what you're going to share today. So that's kind of just where I'm at. I
No
don't even know what you're
pressure.
going to share.
No pressure.
I almost said last year. Last week, they got the live reaction from you. And I feel like this week they'll get the live reaction from me. Not that it's like, crazy, but I'm excited to hear what you've been up
Oh,
to.
yeah. Yeah.
What's been going on?
Yes. So, as Tara mentioned, I had the opportunity to travel for work to a leadership training. And I promise I'm not going to go into any type of like corporate spiel on what I have to say today, but I'm really going to
Beep bop
take what
boop.
I learned. It is beep bop 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 boop dee dee da. I
Do do do.
um yeah, I'm really going to take what I learned and apply it to spiritual concepts and just the way that we live our lives on the daily. And Tara and I are both people who are passionate about seeing others step into their power
Mm.
and live authentically and be celebrated for living authentically, even if it means being different from the norm.
Oof.
We are now at this juncture. Okay, maybe
Junction?
junct
Yeah.
juncture.
Junction. Whatever.
Uh
We're at a crossroads, maybe. Is
yeah,
that what you meant?
let's bring Bone Thugs into this because yeah, we're at the crossroads and leadership just we don't know what effective leadership looks like today. If you do,
Mm.
you are so fortunate and I want you to take a moment and thank whoever it is who's in your life that has been an evolved leader because
Mm.
what we've grown up witnessing as leadership and I really don't want to talk about this from the lens of government, but it's really hard to not think of or reference the government at some points in
Mhm.
this and we all know how I feel about the government. So let's not go down that path because this crossroads is leading you to the highest version of yourself when it
Mm.
comes to being a sovereign human who has authority and clear sight and direction of where you are going,
Mm,
understanding that you are part of the collective. So, my leadership training was revolved around something called situational leadership, even though the version I learned can't be called situational leadership because that was branded in the 70s and by these two partners. One of the partners broke off. Now,
oh.
this iteration of the other partner who can't use that word, it's called SL2. So take that for copyright reasons or whatever. But it is all about leading situationally, which is how you should approach any situation, whether you're leading or not. Everything's
Mhm.
situational. So, the two core concepts that are presented when you're leading situationally are assessing, or they call it diagnosing, if the person is competent and committed. And so those two words kept
Mm.
flooding into me throughout like the past few weeks where I'm like, okay, I have commitment issues not only in my relationship, but in my work, in my like everything. And it's something that I'm really being faced with right now as I think, as I said last week, coming of age or stepping into this next level of maturity. I am, I know, I can't take myself seriously.
You're so
um,
mature.
you're so mature for your age. I think as a kid meant that you just knew how to play the game and you knew how
Mm.
to do and say what you needed to do in order to not stand out, and you could carry on doing whatever it is you were doing without getting caught. Because I hate being told what to do and I hate being disciplined. So I feel like I learned that game at a really young age because I'm like, don't tell me what to do. Even though I know my parents taught me right from wrong. Sorry, mom. I know you're listening to this. So did a good job of that. But like,
You just found the loopholes. You weren't, like, breaking the rules, maybe?
I mean, which means I should probably be an entrepreneur and start
Oh?
letting taxes work for me instead of the other way around.
Oh, please, yes.
We're working on it.
We're getting there.
2024, here we come. Uncle
2024.
Sam, get on your knees.
We'll show you leadership now. Uh.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole idea of like being competent in what you're doing, I think that's often when you know something so well that you kind of become bored with it, right? Or you don't know it at all and then you don't even want to get started. I think that's where perfectionism and procrastination come into play. So I'm like, where do we want to take this, Tara? I feel like I know you have a little
Well,
bit to say.
I do, but first I have a question because last
Yeah,
episode you talked about, um, being I forget the way you put it, not being smart, but about regurgitating information. So, where is that line for competence? Like if we're not saying you need to regurgitate information to show that you're competent, how do you show that you're competent?
which is interesting because I think that's what spurred the thought of people who regurgitate information I
Right.
don't think are competent, right? Like I
And I
think
would
you're
agree
literally
with you
just like
there. Yeah,
um of course this is all situational, right? So in the
of
workplace,
course.
it's I mean, do you know how to do your job and do you do it well? Can you train others? Can you I mean,
Well, I
good
guess the
question.
piece, yeah, and I guess a piece of that is exactly what you said, confidence, right? Because if you're confident in what you're doing, then that means you know what you're doing and you're doing it well, which makes you competent.
Mhm.
But that is interesting.
Well, and also knowing how to do it and do it well, but then also maintaining a growth mindset
Yes. Oh,
and
coming
being
from an educator
yeah.
standpoint, um, I have seen so many as a student myself, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, but as an educator, the that and I'm not saying everyone, and it's not that everyone hits a certain stage, but there was a lot when I was growing up and starting out teaching where they didn't care to learn the new way. Right? Like, oh, well, why do I need to learn about this SEL? Or why do I need to learn about, which is social emotional learning, if you don't know? Or why do I need to learn about diversity in the classroom? Like that, those were a lot of strong points when I was back in Staten Island. Like, well, why? Yeah, I know not to be racist and I know to make sure that they are happy. Like, but we're constantly learning and growing, and we're finding new ways to connect with the new generation. And yes, there's core things that are in there, but growth mindset, that I feel is one of the keys to being a good leader, is that you're willing to continuously learn what is, whether it's not like in corporate, right? But what's even coming in your collective. We said last time how from season 1 to season 3, our concepts and understandings have changed. That's because we have a growth mindset. We don't want to be telling you 10 years from now the same shit. It'll probably have the same core nugget, but it'll be a deeper understanding.
So true. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. Can I just read out loud a few things so we can
Yes.
play off each other? Because I have a feeling we might have some similar things going on.
Mhm.
So digging into what it means to have integrity. So there are two definitions. You know, I like to Google my words.
Yes.
The first is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Cool. Yeah, I feel like that's often how we interpret integrity.
Mhm.
The second definition I found to be a little bit more interesting and also equally applicable, and it's the state of being whole and undivided. And you know us, we're all for unity
Ooh.
consciousness here.
Yep.
Um, and the other thing, it's like integrity is when your behavior matches your values. So I know you said earlier
Mm.
about how actions speak louder than words, or maybe I said that. You kind of said
One
that.
of us said it in the last episode, I
We are
think.
one. We are
Yeah.
one frequency here. But it brought up the question for me, if we are moving towards embracing sovereignty in others, then what do we need a leader for?
I love that question, and I think, can I answer it?
I want I want you to answer,
Okay.
yeah.
So, I think it's understand hmm. I think it's maybe changing the word leader or our understanding of leader. Because if we are trying to find sovereignty, if we are trying to have this like push in that direction, then like you're right. What do we need someone telling us how to do that for? But the way that I view it and what came in for me, so I'm glad you were like, we'll bounce off each other because it's really aligned with what came in for me, which was we are all connected to unity consciousness, to one global consciousness and beyond, which is besides the fact. And we've spoke about this before. When we do the work, we're digging the trail for the next person, and everyone before us was carving it out and we're continuing to carve it out. So, and what I mean by that, I don't mean one certain path to take. I mean access to remembrance and knowledge and a frequency that was lost on earth. And that means we tap into that however we need to, but we're getting rid of all the gunk that's happening globally on a frequency state. So that way, and that's why new generations are coming in kind of a little bit more attuned because the veil is thinner. We've done the work. The path is clear. The information is easily more accessed. So when I was thinking about a leader, and I want to read you what I wrote. I wrote teaching, leading, or guiding, right? Using those words interchangeably, because as a leader, you are guiding. As a teacher, you are guiding. Um, from a potential perspective. So instead of, which is something that I saw in a school recently, which Victoria knows about, and that's why I'm excited for her to come join me in my school. We had someone teaching the students about climate change, which these students are already very knowledgeable about. I think a lot of them come in, where all of us are talking about it. They're seeing it happen. And it was very much like, look at what we've done, look at what's happening, how can we move forward from this? But it was really such anxiety inducing for these children. And I think a piece of that is we're forgetting the energetics. So we hold our lineage energy from like 7 generations back. We know that we formed as an egg in our grandmother's womb. So we're holding on to their choices, their traumas, their path. So when you're igniting that, I believe that you're also igniting that piece of shame and guilt that wasn't the children's, but very heavily actively feel because it's connected to their lineage. Whatever that may be, colonization, your grandmother littering, like whatever the small thing is, you're activating that and from a place of fear as opposed to potential. So, as a leader, if we're looking to release control, if we're looking to release control, right? I've seen so many teachers be like, I just want you to be able to do this and follow my rules and be in this structure. Same with leaders in corporations or the government. We want you to follow our exact formula. If we release control as leaders and give them a space of potential, then we're giving them knowledge and we're giving them our knowledge and our questions to say, this is as far as we've made it. We're going to do it now. We're going to give it to you now so then you can make the next step further. And I'm releasing control to be the one who taught you that because all I'm doing is giving you what I know. And I'm giving you the most important thing, my questions. So, you know, after all this time of learning, what's still missing? What's the piece that's still missing so that they can step forward thinking potentially, right? Where can I go? Here are the questions that were given to me. How can I take this even further? Especially because we've cleared the channels, especially because we've have so much more information. We're like, guys, we've lifted the veil. This is as much we have. We need your help and your fresh energy and your fresh frequency to continue that push forward.
Dang. Yes, absolutely. I'm like, I don't we're done with this episode now, right?
Thank you so much for joining us. That's how you become a good leader. But it links to growth mindset, right? Being the one that's like, I'm going to be a leader that's growing and changing and know that maybe I'm reaching a point in something that there's a barrier. Let me give it to those that I'm teaching and say, hey, fresh eyes, fresh mind, run, run with it. That's why the card initiation and breakthrough makes sense to me for leadership because now leadership and teaching is an initiation. Is a here's the knowledge I have. Now you take it and run. Now you take it and up level that.
But also feel free to scrap everything I did and let me practice
Yes,
humility because maybe this is not where the collective is anymore.
absolutely. Right? That's why children and new generations spark new ideas because when we allow them to say, hey, these are my questions. This is what I know. These are my questions. And they're like, well, of course, if those are your questions, then that's because none of that's working. So let's find the other pathway. Let's find the new solution here. So you have to release control.
That actually, I feel like answers my next question, which is
Oh,
what does evolved authority look like?
hmm. See, that's a hard question. I know you said it feels like it answers, but I've always had such a problem. And I know you mentioned this too. I've always had such a problem with authority. So for me, that word authority as opposed to leader seems real. I'm like, I don't know.
And I want to bring up something that, someone I really admire, respect, look up to in the spiritual world. She's a breath worker. And some of her advice when we were getting started with frequency broads was whatever you do, be the authority.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, that sounds good in theory, but that's just not how I communicate. That's just not
Mm-hmm.
me. And I really do feel like I'm starting to I'm dipping my toe in this idea, right? Because who do people listen to? People who sound like they know exactly what they're talking about, who speak with the utmost
Mm-hmm.
confidence. And like, and this is the thing that really bugs me about this statement is the people who speak as if their opinion is fact. And
Mm.
nothing drives me more nuts than people talking like their opinion is the truth,
The one truth.
the only truth. And it's not, but here's the thing, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's situational, right? But for me, I'm thinking about, stepping into this role as a tantra teacher. Everyone has a preconceived notion as to what they think tantra means, what this is going to look like, what it's going to feel like. Um and all of the insecurities that bubble up, making them think that they can't practice it because they don't have a partner, or they don't feel comfortable in their sexuality, or they're this or that. And for me to quickly say, no, we're going to do Energy 101 exercises, all the things we coulda, shoulda, woulda learned
Mhm.
before we got into any sort of form of intimacy with another. Let's just learn how to manipulate and work with our own energies. It's as simple as that. But see, even in that tone, do I sound like the authority on it? No, because I have found, and I'm fully embracing, that my approach to being a teacher, guide, whatever we want to call it, I am the I am the person who's going to come in and shine a mirror on you along with the spotlight and say, "Hey, let's look at this and let me hold space while you figure it out, and we can figure it out together."
Mm.
And my responsibility in all of this is to not project my own shit onto the other
Mm.
person I'm working with. So if we
Mm.
step this back and look at it from, okay, if I were to apply these concepts and try to be a leader, every leader we've ever seen projects their shit. Name an instance, and I'm like, in one way or another, it could be positive, it could be influential, but a lot of times
Mhm.
it's a whole bunch of BS. Yeah, this whole exercise has encouraged me to revisit my values. What is happening at the core of myself, of my being?
Mm.
Who am I? What am I returning home to? What does it mean to have integrity? Um, because like I said, I've not really had anyone in my life who I look up to as a leader. And I think Tara and I are both rebels on this front,
Mhm.
where we're like, you're not leading us. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. We're so
Oh.
intuitive, right? Where we're like, you don't have your shit together. Why are we letting you lead us? Um, but I think also, let's bring it regionally focused into the Portland area. We have not had leadership in 8 years. I don't know, Ted Wheeler. We're not even gonna go down that path of talking about Ted Wheeler right now, but like, he's just the poster child for not being a leader and a city falling to shambles. Um, and now it'll be interesting to see who comes in and attempts to be the new face of leadership in this county.
Mhm.
But like,
And I totally, Victoria and I are not stepping away from the fact that being a leader is very challenging, because ultimately what you're trying to do as a leader is take your knowledge and set up people for success. Right? So, like, that is what you want to do. But then, like we said before, you have to be able to surrender if that success is not happening, if your strategy is not working. And I think that's where people get caught up and start to project and take it personally, because they're like, no, well, this is my idea, and like, this is the right idea, and like you said, the one and only truth. And it's like, that was your truth and we tried it and it didn't work. Listen to those who are working your system, whether it be as small as like in a classroom or in your home, right, with your children, all the way up to the government's like highest status. Like, listen to those who are working beneath you or who are working for you or with you to say, okay, you led us in this direction. What's the feedback on that? What's the other side of the coin? What's the perspective? And you mentioned authority, and it was hard for me because when I think authority, I think of my way or the highway, aggressive tones. And you're right, we need to start pulling away that, or feeling like I needed to be the authority in the beginning of this, feeling like I needed to have credential behind it. Like I needed to have all this paperwork to say that I'm worthy of my voice. So it's this strange duality of like trying to find your voice, trying to be assertive, not aggressive, be confident in what you're doing, so that way you people can hear you and understand you because you're clear. I think that's what people forget when they're trying to find that balance of being assertive. Like, when you're assertive, it's the clearest form of communication because you're just saying, this is what it is. This is what I'm trying to show you. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not aggressive. I'm not holding on to that. I'm not passive. I'm not scared. I'm telling you this is what it is. And I'm welcoming your feedback. That's what makes a good leader and good authority to say, like, I'm confident in what I'm doing and I'm trying to lead you, but I'm also having an open ear to what your actual experience is. Because as a
Mhm.
leader, half the time you're not experiencing it, right? As a teacher, I'm in the classroom, but I'm not experiencing it from my students' perspective. So if I'm not actively checking in on them and saying, how is this running for you? Is something not catching for you? Because then we have to realign. That's what makes a good leader and authority in what you're doing, is the willingness to get feedback and readjust, or let them take the reign and be like, this is what I got. I need someone else to step in with a fresh mind, with fresh eyes.
Absolutely. I think that's step 1, and then step 2 is to be an effective leader, using your power to empower others,
Yes.
and letting that be one of your core driving principles as to why you get up and do your job every day.
Hmm. Well, I feel like a lot of leaders, small, big, or medium, are there to feed their ego, are there to feel like, look at me, I have control because I don't have control of my own internal world or external world in some way. I need to have control. Even as teachers, I need to have control of this class. I just need you to regurgitate my information. We are not teaching, and that's something I love about my school, is we're not teaching to regurgitate. I was teaching my second graders how to validate the information they're getting. Go back and check. Does it feel right with you? Do you see the synchronicities out there, right? Whether
Huge.
it be reading other articles or in a spiritual way, seeing the synchronicities, like critical thinking, teaching your team, leading your team to critically think instead of just spit out what you're telling them is key. Every time I told my kids something, I would ask them, is what I'm telling you true? They're like, I'm going to find out. That was like our call and response, right? I'm going to find out. I'm respecting what you're telling me. I'm not saying no, it's not true, but I'm going to find out for myself if it's true,
Okay, I love
and
how
we'll
much you're
reconvene.
pointing your finger at the camera right now, because I am like,
I'm an
you can
authority.
you can be my authority right now because I like what you're saying, and in a world where more and more AI is working its way into our day-to-day, the ability to critically think is what's going to save humanity.
And that's completely linked to situations, like situationship shits, situationally things or whatever, however you say it. You know what I mean? I'm not pointing anymore. I give up. My hands are up. I'm like, I can't say it.
She's
But
surrendering right
I'm
now.
surrendering. But that's, you're working intuitively. You're looking at the situation
Mhm,
and you're saying,
mhm.
how do we best move forward?
Shit. If you haven't listened to our episode called Building a New World, I think is what it's called,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's what this topic reminds me of, and I kinda wish I would've gone back to listen to it before
I
recording this,
know.
um, but we lay out steps. And
We
I
do
ca
lay out
right?
steps. We do.
It's a good one.
Wow, it is really funny how we're having very, I don't want to say the same, but like adjacent topics, or like breadcrumbs from the bigger topics we talked about, but with such like a different lens on it. Love
And
that for
this is what
us.
it's like to live in a parallel universe.
Yes, literally.
I wanna jump back to the word commitment, my
Hmm.
favorite topic,
Your favorite?
because I've told Tara before that I have struggled to lean into committing to this podcast, committing fully to my job, committing to anything that I'm doing. And through this process of me being honest and vulnerable with Tara, she has held space for me to say, I think you do want to commit and it's going to feel good and it is safe to commit. And
Mm.
that I am loved and supported throughout the process of this commitment.
Hmm.
Um, I've said it and I'll say it again. Having a mentor will change your life. So if you
Mm.
don't have a mentor in your life, and the way that I define mentor is, and it's separate than, your best friend, your partner, your therapist, your doctor, your whatever, your lawyer, like
You're a
having
lawyer.
having a mentor is I think your go-to person for perspective, and
Mm,
entering into a mentorship, I think you have to have some sort of understanding that at what point you're going to be the mentor and at another point you're going to be the mentee, and being able to swiftly move between those two roles is what's going to make for a really successful
mm,
mentorship. And I use the word successful loosely in terms that you get what you want out of it and it feels really good. And
right.
I mean, for the most part, at the end of the day.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But having that person to go to for perspective, for advice, for oh my god, you know what's so fucking weird? I keep
What?
looking down and I keep looking down and I'm like, "Why am I, like, so drawn to this word?" And on this card, it says authority. Isn't that weird?
Oh, authority
That's where I
girl.
get my hair done, Color Authority.
Mm,
Denise, she's awesome. Anyways, but I think the whole point of this mentorship dynamic and why I bring it up for me is because I have found that it's my time to practice being a leader.
mm.
And I have been called to be a leader probably my whole life. And I've from being a very, very shy, introverted kid to then going through waves of whatever is the opposite of that. I,
Extroverted?
well, even just like, yeah, very,
Putting yourself on the internet?
oh my, I still can't believe I was having dinner with someone I hadn't seen in a few years and she goes, how did this podcast come to be?" And I'm like, "Honestly, I think I blacked out during the time that Tara convinced me to like get on here, but I'm so grateful I did. Here we are."
I kinda
Um,
blacked out too. Like, all of a sudden, we were just here.
yeah, I never agreed to any of this. Did I? Like, I
I don't
don't
know, but you're here now. You're
too
committing, you're
late.
committing.
I am committed.
Can I bounce off of what you were saying with the mentor-mentee?
Please do.
I love that understanding that there's that give and take, that reciprocity, because it's exactly like I was saying as the teacher, right? Checking in with my students and then with the situation, working intuitively, not just like the fact that they're 7 and they're like, I don't want to do this, right? Like knowing the situation, working intuitively, and shifting what I need to do to serve that, right? Then I become the student. I'm asking them. I'm like, working with them until I'm ready to take that role again and say, okay, now I readjust it and come here. So it's exactly like that. And a mentor, especially on the spiritual path, because there's many types of mentors in our life, but especially on the spiritual path, well, I guess hopefully in every path, is going to help you be empowered, like what you were saying, right?
Mhm.
Find the empowerment. Um, and as we know, because I mention it all the time, Kari is one of my mentors. And just like we were talking about changing our understanding of leadership and what it means to be an authority, she gave me big perspective on what it means to be a teacher in and out of the classroom and how that was a huge label and like from birth I have been leading people. And I think Victoria and I have mentioned we're both human design, right? Projectors. It's human design
Mhm.
where we can see the big picture and say, this is how it's going to work effectively. And this is how people are going to hear the way that it's going to work effectively, releasing that maybe it doesn't, that maybe it would work effectively for us that way, but not for everyone. And we say, okay, well, we gave it a try. I always felt like I needed to be the person and me alone to go in and say, this is how it's going to effectively work. I've done it in every fucking job I've worked at. I've gone up to the boss and been like, this is trash. Here's the better way. I will say it's worked every time. It always is better. Just saying. I do it in my relationships with my friends. I do it with my own practice here. Like, but it really just shows me as a leader that like I am, and all leaders are part of a community, are part of a collective. So, yes, I'm leading you because I may have some understanding that can help you, but we are one, we are equal. So when you are coming to a mentor or a teacher or a guide that is telling you that they are above you, and I know we've talked about this, but just reiterating, they are not above you. They have a different understanding and are there to give you perspective for you to find your own empowerment and continue the learning. You are the authority on what you know, and you are able and willing to share that out, then you do it. Then you put that forward. Don't let anyone else tell you that you are not an authority on what your truth is, but know that your truth is one truth, not the only truth.
Whew, girl.
Thanks for holding space. That's my starseed story. And now I'm like, fuck, I just have to show up as a teacher and give them what they need and show them that they have, right? That there's not this anxiety and fear and triggering this internal trauma from seasons past, but to say, here's what I know, take it and run, be the potential that you have inside you. Like, go for it, shoot the arrow.
Um, I really honor you as a human, but so freaking admire who you are as a teacher and how you show up for these students. I feel like most of my teachers were such dinosaurs. So to know that there are kids out there getting this experience of being able to just be intuitively read and then matched.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the other thing that brought came up for me when thinking about this topic was, yeah, so energy matching can be to your benefit, sort of along the same lines as the evolved empath, where you are able to feel another person's energy, but you don't absorb it, you don't take it
Mm-hmm.
on. You use it as a tool, as an intuitive hit to let it guide you in your interaction with someone.
Mm.
So, energy matching in the evolved lens. The other thing that I had noted was control. And I think the idea of authority often brings about the sense that someone else is in control of us. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that's why we are here always talking about sovereignty and the importance of stepping into your sovereignty. But there does still seem to be a need for some sort of control because we've witnessed what happens when people just have free will to do whatever they want. We always have free will, of course, but how do we reinstate this faith in humanity, this need to look out for our neighbor, to feel safe when we're walking down the street, to have authority protect us in our own experience of expressing our free will, right? And I
Mm.
think that there's been this kind of hazy cloud over Portland, but this brought about the question, what's my why? Why do I want to be a leader?
Mm.
Why do I even want to talk about leadership with you today, Tara? Like it just, or why do we do the things we do? Why do we
Mm.
feel, why do we love the people we love? Why
Why?
do we have any final parting words?
I mean, I think the last parting word I have is if we were energy matching, as you say, and being able to use it as a tool to intuitively read and lead from that space, as well as releasing control, giving them our knowledge and letting them evolve or change, that is the new form of leadership that we need to be stepping into. We need to treat every knowledge, every nugget of knowledge we give as an initiation, as a start to their journey, not an end. And I think a lot of people think, I know it all, so I'm going to give it to you and that's it. No, it's an initiation for them to continue to empower themselves, to be authority of their own body, of their own energy, but we need to have systems and leaders and guides in place that's doing so intuitively, whether it's by region, by classroom, by individual, by country, by the globe, right? And it's, as we said in Building a New World, I don't know the answer, but we know this is the direction that we need to go.
And we know that the power ultimately lies in the evolution of the collective consciousness. And
Mm,
that is why we are doing what we're doing.
mhm. Hell yeah.
Power in the collective consciousness looks like a distribution of resources where everyone is fed, sheltered, clothed, has access to education, has basic needs and beyond,
Mhm.
has the ability to express and practice their own free will, to love. That's the thing. I think when you have your power taken away from you, you don't have the ability to love to the same degree. You're in survival
Mhm.
mode, right? And so ultimately this is what we're here to reinstate.
Mhm. And I think the last thing that I wanna say is the concept of radical hope,
Aw.
right? We face so much and we see so much broken that sometimes we lose hope. And when we lose hope, then we feel we have no choice.
Mm.
So you have to work on keeping that spark alive because that's your ability to choose something different, to fight for something different. That comes by having hope. We give up when there's no hope. So tune into that radical hope, that push forward.
Woo, I love that. Thank you,
And I
Tay.
will say, I got that idea, that concept of radical hope from our guest who's coming next week, Jeff, an amazing teacher, an amazing person who has some pretty incredible stories to share with us next week.
Amazing. Looking forward to that episode.
So, like, share, prescribe yourself and your friends our dose of frequency because we love you.
We do so much. See you next
Bye.
week.